The gifts which are targeted to each person become, in the hands of that person, gifts which flow outward to the whole church. And we can see this in the mystery of marriage and monasticism. Married people sometimes chafe, at the idea of monasticism being the higher calling. And, there are monastics or monastically inclined people who chafe at the idea of marriage itself being a worthy calling, kind of treating it as a necessary evil. But we need to consider both marriage and monasticism as two gifts from God. Monasticism is the higher, marriage is the lower. But let's think about that language of height as imagery. Yes, monasticism is the higher calling, but things which arise in the heights flow downwards when there's a slope. And things in the lower regions are called to make pilgrimage upwards. In the intended divine order, the monastic and the married callings exist in dynamic relation to each other. The one is higher than the other, but both are equal insofar as both are willed by God and interdependent. God calls some people to be great souls around which thousands orbit. Others are called to be quiet saints, hidden from the eyes of the world, but praying silently. But in the mind of God, these are interdependent and bound together through the Spirit and love, because the gift given to the monastic to be a saintly monastic redounds to the good of the whole church, and the gift given to the married person to be a saintly married person redounds to the benefit of the whole church, including monks. Paul then quotes Psalm 68. When you ascended on high, you led a host of captives and you gave gifts to men. Well, both the Hebrew and Septuagint texts, this actually says received gifts among men rather than gave. What Paul is doing here is he's elucidating the hidden meaning of the text as understood through the meaning of uncreated divine love. The gifts which are received are the gifts which are given. By striking the prince of the power of the air, Christ receives the whole world and the whole energy of the human race into himself as gift. Consequently, he is its king and sovereign, and that world is his to distribute to whomever he will. Psalm 68 opens with the phrase, God shall arise, his enemies shall be scattered, those who hate him shall flee before him. And this is almost a direct quotation of Numbers 10:35, which records the cry of Israel when the Ark of the Covenant sets out to lead the people in the wilderness toward the land of their inheritance. This is God enthroned on his chariot, leading the people of Israel to the conquest of Canaan, where God will take up his throne and settle his people in the land. So God's already won the victory in Egypt, but he remains with the people, leading them to their final inheritance, which becomes a quite obvious figure for the journey of the church with Christ and the Spirit through this present age into the world to come.
When Paul is talking about ascending and descending, there definitely seems to be a reference to the ascension. But also when he talks about descending, there's that debate about is he thinking of Christ's own descent into the grave, into Sheol of Hades? Of course, as Orthodox Christians, we definitely think that.
Yeah.
But is it obvious in the text? Is it just kind of an illusion?
I think it's obvious insofar.
The Wise Phone 2, which I currently use as my phone. It's an amazing phone that helps you not doom scroll or be addicted to social media and other vices, because it doesn't have a web browser, but it does function like a phone. You can call, you can text, you can take pictures, you can do videos. It even has apps like Uber and Lyft. You can order food, maps to get around town, all the things that you kind of need in this modern life, while at the same time being able to have a boundary between you and work or you and distractions. So you can be more present with your family, with your kids, with your spouse, whomever. This has been a very freeing experience for me to have the Wise Phone 2. Again, you can get $40 off through my discount code KING today.
I think it's obvious insofar as it's clear that Paul has this kind of model of the cosmos in his mind, right? Where there's the high heaven, you have the sublunar heaven, you have the earth, and then what's important to recognize about Sheol is that Sheol is really kind of the earth in its earthiest form, right? So you return to the dust, that you become earth. That means you're underground, you're in Sheol, but underground is still part of the ground, right? Like that's part of the way scripture conceptualizes it. So this idea that Christ, he comes down from high heaven, he is incarnate in a body of earth. He then goes under the earth. Well, that is his invasion and his conquest of Sheol. And it's universally understood that there's still some, consciousness that exists even when you're under the earth. This idea that he goes all the way down and he comes all the way back up and he takes all of those who are down up. I think that is definitely there in the text, but it's because that's there in biblical cosmology. That's just part of the warp and woof of the way that Scripture conceptualizes the reality of the world. So I think sometimes it can be misleading and frame the descent into Hades as this kind of separate doctrine, which you either take or leave. It's not really a separate doctrine, or it shouldn't be framed that way. It's really just a natural consequence of what we mean when we talk about Christ dying, when we understand what death means in that kind of a way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're in the realm of the grave, and because of the prince of the power of the air, they could never really ascend until he was defeated.
Right.
Which is definitely showing up in this letter.
Yeah. So when you besiege the gates of Hades, what do you have? You have the keys of the kingdom. That means the door is no longer manned by the devil. That means suddenly it's open. People are passing in and out. That's why saints are having commerce with human beings now, because there's a door which has been opened. And that's also, I think, part of what grounds the church's ministry of prayer for the dead. That door opens at every level. And so we, in the liturgical work of the church, are making intercession for the dead so that through the prayers of the church, as many get out of Hades as will.
Yes, yes. And there is a church father who makes this direct connection for us. Saint Irenaeus definitely speaks of this specific passage in Ephesians 4 and connects that with Christ's descent into Hades and setting captives free. And so he's very explicit, Saint Irenaeus is, about that. For the listener, so you can go dig in and look more into that. Any last comments before we jump into next week's study?
Well, just keep praying for me. I'm going through a bit of a transition. I haven't announced it publicly yet. I don't know when I will, but just keep me in your prayers.
I know what it is, but I'm not going to share it with the subscribers. But we are praying for you and your transition. And so, guys, another way you can support Seraphim is by praying for him, and also just even subscribing to his content on Substack. His weekly readings, of course, signing up for this Bible study as well supports him. But in any way you can, that would be great. We really appreciate all the work that you do for the church.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. The theme of the whole Bible is the divine indwelling of the world. That's why the Bible and Orthodox tradition are on exactly the same page. At the center of our faith is the transfiguration of human beings in the whole creation by the divine glory. The incarnation is thus nested in the center of Scripture. Scripture, the prophets talk about God coming in person. He's going to come. He's going to come more fully than he's ever come before.
The whole New Testament can be called the gospel, since it contains nothing but the gospel teaching. The novice should first of all study the Lord's commandments in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. And the study of the commandments in these evangelists combined with the actual practice of the commandments, the other scriptures that constitute the New Testament should also be easily understandable. This first episode is going to be free to all of you, and the rest will be for paid subscribers. Seraphim, thank you for preparing this Bible study through Ephesians.